We can come have it. I can tell you about 95% will want a vote and 80 to 90% will vote no, okay? You don't even have to worry about it. So you did good not to waste your money, okay? Because I can tell you, I am in contact with my ward, and even when I wasn't down here and we did things like when we did the thing to take over the police under local control and to reduce the Board of Aldermen, my ward voted no. Okay, so I do keep in contact and I know where they are. So if that's something somebody wants, we sure could have a meeting. In fact, I plan to, and I've talked to some other people who represent some other wards, and we're talking about having another North Side ward meeting, because the meeting that they had over in Antonio's ward, this is the thing, it was so far north and it was on an evening, and a lot of people don't like to come out on the evenings. And so we have our meetings Saturday mornings, and we get, anybody who's ever been to my ward meetings know we get 200 to 400 people, okay? So we get a big group of people to come to our ward meetings, and they participate and they can read. And they've already been on record, because what we're calling the first ward is really 75% of the old 20th ward, which I've represented for a long time. And I already know what their position has been all these years. I want to make a point about what we talked about earlier about who's going to pay for this stadium. Did you read in the newspaper that Steve Stenger said that they were not giving any money toward the stadium? Is that what you read? Because that's what I read.
That's what I read.
Okay. And it wasn't anything that says, I'll think about it or anything like that. It said, we're not participating. Is that correct?
Not without a vote.
Okay. Then, did you get a letter, which I did, from, I guess, 21 of the 34 state senators to the governor saying that we're not going to fund that stadium? Did you also get a copy of that letter?
Yes, not without going through the General Assembly or with a vote of the people.
And I think those were Republican state senators, and I've since talked to a couple of Democratic state senators. Surprise, surprise. They also added their names to it, saying that they were not going to do it. So I'm going to be interested in how the governor gets this money together when Democrats and Republicans are working together saying we're not going to do it. And I want to say the last time we funded the stadium, we did have money from the state, we had money from the county, and we had money from the city. So when I hear that 2 of the 3 entities that were going to, that funded the last time is not going to fund, that makes me even more nervous about us spending our money. As to the way your board bill is worded, or even the way you did your polling, should city taxpayers' money be used? Let me say, I think that's very appropriate. Very, very appropriate, because that's what taxpayers care about. I can tell you right now, if Oprah comes down to tomorrow and says, guess what, St. Louis, I'm going to give you some of my billions to help you build a stadium, I'll be in line to say I'll take it, okay? So I don't think that you need to ask them, do they care about it if it's not taxpayer dollars? I think that what the taxpayers care about is if it's their dollars. If we find a way that does not take money from them, especially general revenue, doesn't use taxpayers' money, I don't think a taxpayer would be against it. I think you could find something that would be unanimous in that, yes. If Stan Kroenke would say, I'm going in my pocket and pay for the whole thing, would not have a problem with that. So I think the way you worded it was exactly right, okay? That's what we're concerned about, taxpayer money, not Sharon's personal money. If we want to all give money, if everybody who's for this wants to go in their pocket and give money, not a taxpayer would be upset about that, okay? I understand how the polls was conducted. I agree with the alderman from the 24th ward. I'm always surprised sometimes when people talk about polls and think that they do every one. I mean, on a presidential race, they don't do every one. On very important races, this is not how polls are conducted. They don't go into everyone. So I understood what you did. I want to commend you for doing polls. That was also very smart to kind of give an idea of what's going on. And so thank you again for that. I want to talk about this thing about jobs. People don't care about jobs. People care about jobs, but people care about other things too. Jobs are just one part of this. It is not the whole end to all end for everybody. And some people get jobs and some won't get jobs. Most people need jobs. That's what I said before, and I'll say it again. But there's also the integrity of representing people what they want. Maybe the people don't think. And when I say the people as a whole, the citizens of St. Louis who would vote, maybe they will think jobs is the most important things, and maybe they will think other things. We're not saying what is most important. We're saying, do they have a right to have a say about this? And I think they do. The thing about the comptroller and what her position was, that really, I didn't understand that whole conversation, because the comptroller has said, and what I've heard her say, is that we can't afford the way it's set up. So maybe you can explain, if you've heard differently, that the way that they wanted to do it, we could not afford to do it, that it would put us in a bad position in the bonding, that our bonds have already been lowered, and some other things. And that is why she didn't say she was against the stadium. She said she was against the funding. Is that what you understood?
That is what I understood.
So, even though you don't know exactly what deal would come up at the point, and if we will make another deal, as I understand your point, you don't care if we make a deal that doesn't include public funding. You just don't want us to make a deal that includes public funding without input, I'm sorry, not you, but this board bill doesn't want us to make a deal that includes any kind of public funding without some input of the voters of the city of St. Louis. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so